Alrighty, gents and ladies, this is 23.3, the evolution of flowers, is the very last of our section on 23. So this is the last little section here. Burning question on your mind, what is a flower? Hopefully you all already know kind of what a flower is. I really, my goodness, I hope so. So let's talk about the parts of a flower, because we're digging more into what is a flower and its parts. So parts of a flower. We're going to talk about the four whorls of a flower. So when we look at the whorls of a flower, we're looking at a whorl here with the sepals, a whorl with petals, a whorl with male parts, and a whorl with female parts. Okay, so we're going to talk first about the calyx. This is the outermost whorl. So this is this whorl here. It's made up of sepals, which are modified leaves. So these little green guys down here are called sepals. So they are part of that first whorl. Our second whorl, second from outermost to innermost. So calyx is the outermost. Second outermost is the corolla. This is our second whorl of flower. This consists of petals. Okay, so our corolla are these petals, this kind of circle of petals around the inside of that flower, and it's a corolla. Third one is our androecium. So our androecium is the third whorl. So that's these guys here, all these little stamen. It's made of stamen. Now, stamen are thread-like filaments that hold up pollen-containing sacs called anthers. So we have this thread-like filament, so this guy's our filament, holding up the pollen-containing sac. So this is our sac full of pollen, and that is the anther. Together, they are the stamen. So you can kind of see how this guy is labeled and what parts we're talking about. Alrighty, moving forward. So next we have the last whorl, the fourth and final whorl, the innermost whorl. This is the gynoecium. So, like I said, innermost whorl of flower. It's made of one or more pistils. Now, pistil here, is the female portion of the flower. Okay, so the pistil, we generally talk about it in three parts. We have the stigma, which is this guy up here. This is a sticky, swollen tip of the pistil that catches the pollen. We have the style, which is this kind of long doodad here. It's a slender stalk that rises from the ovary. And then we have the ovary itself, the swollen lower portion of the pistil. So when we just break it up into three parts, we're talking stigma, style, and ovary. When you see the flower dissection video, they'll show you some ovules that are real life. They're super, super cool. Please do watch the real life flower dissection. It goes in depth and talks about these parts one more time so that you can really get a better look at the parts of a flower on a real flower and not just on a picture. That way you get a little bit more of an idea of what's going on in this guy. So we're just talking about parts of a flower. Okay, so pause now and take a peek at that dissection. Moving forward. Questions. These are the first two questions. There are two more kind of, with the second one being actually kind of a grouping of questions. You'll see when you get there. So here are the first two questions. What are the four, excuse me, what are the four whorls of a flower, starting with the innermost, finishing with the outermost? So tell me what the innermost whorl is, and then out and out and out until you get to the outermost whorl. Then draw a diagram of a flower with all four whorls labeled. So you are going to draw a diagram of a flower similar to the one maybe on the last slide, but you're going to label the whorls of that flower and not necessarily just the parts. However, I do also want you to label the parts. So you'll also label the pistil, stigma, style, ovary, sepal, petal, filament, anther, and stamen. Okay, so most of the female and male portions of that flower you'll label anyway. Okay, so you're drawing the diagram and you're labeling the whorls in that guy. And then in this, you're telling me what the whorls are in a flower starting with the innermost. All right, moving forward. Pause and do that now, but I'm moving forward. Okay. So types of flower. We have a complete flower. This has all four whorls and appendages. So that means right? It has a calyx, it has a corolla, it has an androecium, and it has a gynoecium, okay? All 4 whorls. A perfect flower has both gynoecium and androecium, okay? So it has both of these, not just one or the other, okay? That means it has both male and female parts on a single flower. Now, some flowers are called imperfect. They either lack gynoecium or androecium, making them either male or female flower, depending on what parts they have. So certain plants do come in either male or female. Most are both, though. Most have flowers that have both gynoecium and androecium. Incomplete flowers lack any one of the 4 whorls. So complete has all 4 whorls. Excuse me. Has calyx, has corolla, has androecium, and has gynoecium. Is a complete flower. An incomplete flower maybe doesn't have a calyx, right? Doesn't have that outermost whorl. Maybe doesn't have androecium. Maybe doesn't have gynoecium. So an imperfect flower will always be an incomplete flower. However, not all incomplete flowers will be imperfect flowers. Some incomplete flowers can be perfect flowers, okay? Because gynoecium and androecium are 2 of the 4 whorls, okay? If that is confusing, bring it up in the Zoom meeting and we will talk about it, because I realize it's kind of a weird section to look at. If you're really struggling, go to page 536 in your text, and that kind of goes over these guys, okay? Monocot versus dicot. This is a big division in plants. Monocot means one cotyledon, okay? One cotyledon. So if we have, like this, I believe is supposed to represent corn up here. It has one cotyledon, 2 cotyledons. We actually talked about last section. I got a little too far ahead of myself and was talking about beans and 2 cotyledons. So there are 2 parts, and this is kind of a bad example. It works though. There are 2 parts to it, and mostly, like I said, we talk about beans and how you can kind of flatten them out when we're talking about dicots. But anyway, monocot, 1 cotyledon. Second section for monocot is parallel veins like in grasses. So when you look at grass, you'll notice the veins of grass go up and down, and they don't go side to side, okay? In a dicot, they do. They kind of come up and they diverge. They kind of spread out like rivers or like spider webs, or kind of just an outward format. So monocot, 1 cotyledon, dicot, 2 cotyledons. That's what they mean. But here's some more kind of differences in them that we won't get into, but knowing them is kind of nice. So in a monocot, there are vascular bundles that are kind of scattered about. In a dicot, they're arranged in a disc, so they're arranged super neatly. In a monocot, we have fibrous roots. So what that means is the roots tend to stay towards the surface of the ground, but they spread outward, right? They spread left and right and don't spread down as far. This kind of plant does very, very well in very rainy areas where, they get rain very regularly. However, taproots are in dicots, so taproots go further down into the ground, which means if it doesn't rain for a week or 2, that taproot is far enough down into the ground that it can suck up the moisture that's lower down in the earth than can a monocot, okay? So that taproot really helps them get way down into the soil and pull up a lot of moisture. In a monocot, we have petals that tend to be in multiples of 3, and in a dicot, we tend to have petals in multiples of 4s or 5s. This is a very, very common thing, and it's just kind of random and weird, and you wouldn't think of it, but yeah. Monocots, petals, multiples of 3, and then 4s and 5s and dicots. Okay, moving forward. So this is part of plant embryos. We've got endosperm. Now these are the parts that were in an image previously. Hey, we're not going super far into them. Like I said, we're talking about cotyledons and endosperm, and that's it. So endosperm is a nutritious tissue used as food reserves for embryos, and cotyledons are just seed leaves, right? They're the leaves inside. Double fertilization, we're not going to go over super in depth. It's just used to describe the process by which 2 sperm fuse with cells of the megagametophyte to make zygote and endosperm, okay? There's a whole lot more to it. We're just going real general so you know what the term means, okay? All right. And a cotyledon is neither a dinosaur or part of a placenta. It is a seed leaf. Yeah. Okay, moving forward. 3 and 4, last 2 questions here. What are the differences between monocots and dicots? Tell me the differences, describe them, show me what they mean. And then number 4 is kind of a longer one. I'm asking you to read the highlight section in your text, so page 541 to 543, so it's like 4 pages. It's not too bad. It's a lot of pictures and a lot of like little blocky text sections, with a lot of pictures, so it's not awful. And then you're going to go to page 546 and answer questions 20 through 27. They say, they're like in a big green box and they say highlights review. So what I'm having you is you're reading the highlights section, you're doing the highlights review, so that you kind of have a grasp on some of the littler tidbits that we don't get to go over. All right. And that's the end of chapter 23. That's all of it. Please do expect a study guide coming up here soon. Probably going to try and post it Monday and give you at least a week to work on it. Maybe Tuesday. I haven't quite decided yet. I want to give you time to work on it though, because just like before, it's going to be pretty long. It's going to be pretty tough. I'm hoping to do it in the format of a test on here, but not give it the same grades as a test. I will take input from that if you would prefer me just take pictures of it and you do it by hand and put it in, or if you would prefer it straight in like that, like I said, like a test format, I'm fine with that as well. It's up to you. Alrighty, gents and ladies, excellent work. Enjoy the flowers. You've got this. Bye, guys.